Hey everybody, JJ here. Welcome back for another Wednesday of Zoom networking, and I couldn't be more excited. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. I'm busting out with color. I got my Grateful Dead Haight Ashbury tie-dye shirt on. I actually wore this last weekend and I ran into Pace Morby. He said, Pace, what do you think of the tie-dye? We got to put the Pace Morby sub 2 on a tie-dye shirt. Pace said, great idea. If you guys don't know Pace Morby, his creative finance program, he has got the premier real estate education program in the country right now, and they are killing it. So look up Pace Morby, look up creative finance, look up subject 2. Guys, our speaker today is none other than one of my favorite people in the world. Gosh, I love this woman. Her name is Shelly Frank. She's an entrepreneur. She's a business person. She's a family person, as one of the biggest hearts of anyone I've ever met in the world. And she's one of the smartest women I've ever met in the world. Shelly, how you doing today, Shell?
Great, JJ.
Hey, it is so good to see you again. How you been?
Oh, awesome. It's been a good year.
So have you been traveling? I know you're frequently going from one city to another.
Not yet. I'm just about to head over to Australia to bring in my second little grandson.
How fantastic. Going down under. I've always wanted to go down under. Where in Australia are you going to?
Byron Bay.
Is that near Melbourne, near Sydney?
It's in Queensland.
Queensland. I've got 2 Queensland healers.
There you go.
I've got 2 Australian cattle dogs.
Oh.
Shelly,
Awesome.
really quickly, what are you going to be talking about for people today?
Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to do lessons from my short-term rental experience. I believe that we're on the precipice of short-term rental 2.0. And so I thought I'd share a little bit about myself, where I'm going, and where I see things going in the future.
Perfect. Well, no further ado, Shelly, take it away.
Okay, I just put together a short little slideshow here. We have about 15 slides to walk through together. And this is really just about my own experiences, and I hope I can share with you something that you don't know. So when I sat back to think about, okay, what are my biggest lessons from this past year? The first one was the power of being in an emerging industry. You know, and it was really about 2013 or 2014. I couldn't remember, but I have a dear friend that's a dressmaker in Toronto, Canada. And he invited me to the keynote address that year. And there was this demure, wonderful woman from the Netherlands who was a futurist. And in her closing speech, she was talking about how the fashion industry was dead, and that it was about to reinvent itself. And she said, where are we going? We are moving. We are morphing from a society of consumers to a society of experiencers. Therefore, we will be sort of moving aside our stuff in favor of minimalism, and we were going to become much more nomadic. Now, back in 2012, that stuff wasn't going on, but I thought that was intensely interesting. And look where we are today. It's true, isn't it? Short-term rentals have become popular because of the trend. Now, one of the reasons that this is happening is because the age of the human being is being extended. So you've got grandparents who are spending a lot more time with grandchildren, and that spans the continents, obviously. And with technology the way that it is, that poses a great opportunity, and flights, that poses a great opportunity for us to travel more and experience more. So anyway, the power of being in an emerging industry. We'll talk, this is the whole theme of tonight, I think, right? Because there's a lot of people on here with experience in a variety of settings with short-term rentals. So I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. The second thing that I wanted to talk about was the power of partnerships. And all of us have had some experience on this call. Think about some of the best times that you've ever had in your career or in business or in your life. If you just think about your mind's eye, who comes to mind for you? Isn't it true that during every great time in our lives, we develop amazing relationships and partnerships that helped us get there and that helped us get to the next level? So I have a real big passion for the power of partnerships. And then the last thing, of course, is the power of creative financing. And the reason I put this piece in is because 2020 nearly killed the short-term rental folks that were in business. And I'll share some of my experiences with you on that front. But it's so wonderful to see the creative financing options that are available today. Okay, I thought I would start with a little bit about me, just to give you some background. I'm Canadian. I was transplanted into Portsmouth, New Hampshire in 2016. And I have, I actually, in Canada, where I come from a really small little town that if there was a widow that needed cabinets or there was a paying gig, the widow always got her cabinets first. And, I grew up thinking that we were all in this world to help each other. And I believe that still today, which is probably why I got along so well with JJ right out the gate. The other thing is that we all go through things in life where we need each other and we need people to help lift us up. And so that's another thing that I think is so fabulous about this group. I have family in both Canada and Australia, and I have good friends in just about every continent in the world. My background is in business and technology. A little bit more on that later. So jumping right in, I wanted to give you a little bit about my real estate journey. I landed in Portsmouth in 2016, and while I was waiting for my green card to come, I had I love learning. So I had this opportunity to step off the hamster wheel. I was in business and technology for a majority of my career. So in corporate, if you will. And I had such a desire to always be an entrepreneur. And so in these modest beginnings in this little house in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, I started to do the decorating and started my short-term rental business. And I also started to learn. I'm a nerd. So I did every kind of education that you could get back in the day. And, in the early days, there was Airbnb arbitrage was just starting to come on the scenes. And of course, many of you know what that is, but I still get asked, what is arbitrage? Arbitrage is when you rent out a single family home or a multifamily dwelling and you do short-term rentals above it and you keep the spread. That's the easiest way to say it. I also did equity ownership. How do you work together with others with creative tools to have equity ownership in the business, in the short-term rental business that you have. And so what I did was I put it like a simple one-page business plan. I was so done with 30-page business plans from corporate back in the day. I just put a one-page email together and I sent it out to a majority of my friends. And I will say 99.9% of them said, "You're kidding me. You cannot make money this way. That's not going to be a business." I'm so glad I proved them wrong. Anyway, by 2018, I expanded into Tampa and with these multi-family dwellings. And back in those days, there was no rules. It was like the wild, wild west. I was one of the newest or one of the first ones here. And so my focus was really on corporate rental and a mass audience. And so I just simply did Airbnb. Back then, I didn't have to do anything other than. And then I focused on vendor management. And vendor management is good relationships with your landlords. In addition, great relationships with your house cleaning staff and great systems. So I built all of the systems myself and then helped a young lady build a cleaning business. So, and I still work with her today as a mentor. And momentum started. So I had 12 units. By the end of 2018, I had 12 units and one house with equity in it. And by the end of 2019, vacation rentals had, outpaced my corporate rentals in a very big way. And I paid all my debt. I spent probably about $100,000 getting myself up and running, travel expenses, furniture, housewares, that sort of thing. And I started living the dream. And at that point, I said to myself, what if something happens? So shouldn't I be diversifying myself? And the other thing that was really important to me was finding the right tools, the right corporate structure tools in order to set yourself up for building wealth long term. So I started to look around for a bigger education opportunity. And that's when I crossed paths with Fortune Builders. So I joined and really to expand in my real estate side of things. I thought I didn't want all my eggs in one basket with short-term rentals. So my idea at the time was I'd love to do some fix and flips, and I really want to do waterfront properties. I want to get into the luxury market. The other thing that was really important to me was to build a local network. And in fact, it's funny because the very first, that 3-day weekend that you have at Fortune Builders, I met a couple about my age bracket, not yet retired, but, raised their children. And there's a whole bunch of us, right? In North America, there's a high amount of baby boomers. That's what I'm in. That's the category that I'm in. And so the wife never worked and the husband worked in healthcare. And so they were intensely interested in the short-term rental space. And really, we struck up a relationship. And, before the ink was even dry on the contract that we signed with Fortune Builders, COVID arrived with a capital D. Oh, my God. And it just absolutely shut everything down. My worst fear came to happen. And I went, oh my God. And their worst fear happened too. She didn't work and he had the job, and they were afraid he was going to be furloughed or worse, laid off. And they had a lot of debt to service. And, in this age category, that's not a lot of fun. So they asked if I could come and help them with their house in St. Petersburg. They had a 4-bedroom, 3-bath with a pool in the back. They had raised their boys. Their boys were gone. And they really wanted to be able to pay their mortgage and service some of the debt that they had. So I went, and within 4 days, I had them up and running. And before I left, they had enough bookings to pay for the mortgage that month. And the second month, we had enough bookings to pay for two mortgage payments in the second month. So it was so successful. I went, why? Wait a second. Why am I not doing this for myself? So that's when I got the PPP loan, the SBA loan, took care of all of that stuff, to keep the business going as much as possible. But because 2019 was such a successful year, I knew that I qualified for an FHA loan, which is very low interest. So I scoured Pinellas and Hillsborough, which is where I live in Tampa. I looked at over 150 homes and lost 5 offers until I found this house. And I started house hacking. I didn't actually know that that's what it was called I just knew that this was going to be a really great idea for, people from domestic violence that needed to start over, and they had a house with that was an asset that they could use to create income. Or look at, some of you have parents that are about to retire and they don't have enough for retirement, but they have a house, they have an asset. And a lot of you know that we're starting to see some of the pre-foreclosure turn that's going to be happening in the community. And so how can we help those people keep their house? Because where are those people going to go? Anyway, back to this one. This is the house that I bought in Temple Terrace, which is about 15 minutes north of Tampa, downtown Tampa, where I have, oh, by the way, I had to give up 3 of my 12 units just to stay solvent. Sometimes you have to really correct yourself as you're moving through tough times. So anyway, got this house and did exactly the same thing as I did with the couple from Fortune Builders. Now, not all houses work. So it's not like you can't automate finding a house. It has to be perfect. This one happens to have a beautiful pool in the back. And you see this top part is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on this floor. And around the back, down here, is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. It was a mother-in-law suite. The couple had lived here for 40 years. And they had the mother's, or the wife's mother was living with them for 30 of those 40 years. And she had passed 2 years earlier. Now they were ready to move on. So that's the one that I am currently in. I'm in it right now. And I am using soundproofing technologies and experimenting with that. It's going great. And I am totally upscaling the guest experience here with sunbed deck, et cetera, et cetera. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you how I did this the first year. You need to jump in and you need to start calculating your expenses, because you don't know what your expenses are actually going to be when you get a brand new place, right? But I also knew that I was going to be able to do more than just the nightly rate. I was going to be able to do not only the nightly income, but I was going to be able to do pool heating. And I was going to be able to do pet fees as well. I keep my pet fees very reasonable because Tampa is a big pet area, and that's a big deal for people to be able to come here. I figured out the utilities were very expensive when I heated the pool, so I started that as an income stream as well. And there's other things that I believe are going to be in short-term rental 2.0 since COVID, that I really see coming as opportunities for new revenue streams as well. So what I really, the couple of things that are important about this slide. Number one is, you'll notice that my occupancy was only 54.2%. Why? Because I live here and I was doing capital expenditures while I was, earning revenue. I was pouring it back into the house as well. And I'm a revenue maximizer. I'm not an occupancy maximizer. A majority of all of the emerging property managers out there for short-term rentals are occupancy focused, and I'm revenue focused. So from February 5th, which is when I moved in, until the end of August, I brought in $52,000 of revenue against $20,000 of cost, because that FHA, the cost of money was so low for me that's what made my net of 32 very, very attractive. So that's an area that you really need to watch as you do your creative financing. Is your cost of money is important when you're coming down to your net income. Okay. All right. So here are the biggest lessons that I learned. Number one is that big data is broken. You guys know how big data works? When when you have a whole bunch of data, and this actually started in the airline industry a number of years ago. The big databases that they use to hold the airline inventory, right? The seats. So what they did was they used actuaries to take a look at this data and study the data. And the actuaries came back and said, listen, for every plane that leaves, you get so many people that don't show, no shows. Therefore, a strategy is you could oversell it by 5 seats. So that's why in the airport, sometimes you get them saying, hey, we've oversold the flight. If anybody will agree to stay back, we'll give you a $200 voucher or whatever. Okay, so that was the very beginning of manipulating data, big data. So now we use machines to do that. So machines that collate and grab all that data and a variety of data, they come back and they tell us very interesting things about the data. So in short-term rental industry, you will have AirDNA, you will have Mash Visor, you will have a variety of different big data hosts that provide information for your pricing of your nights, right? So that you can do dynamic pricing. And there's a variety of companies that do dynamic pricing, from Beyond Pricing to Wheelhouse to another one is Price Labs. And so as I was doing my research for this particular area that I'm in, and this is 15 minutes outside of downtown, right? So this is what it said. This is what the big data said. Big data said that I could get at my property $172 a night. That's what it said, right? And by the way, this is Mash Visor that I'm showing you. And so the traditional numbers, what they're doing is they're pulling those traditional numbers from MLS numbers. And MLS, as you know, is it's got a long history. So big data pulls from every one of those years, and based on the momentum of that big data, it makes a prediction of what you'll be able to rent your place for. Okay. So the Airbnb data, as you know, is not that old. So you're talking about 2016, 2017, and 2012 actually is when they started, but you have a big hockey stick effect in this big data. And even though they tweak some things to normalize that data as much as possible, it's just not that old. So when you have a year, and then 2020, that cuts right off, what do you think happens to the big data? It gets confused and it goes, well, I'm not sure. I don't know what to say. I'm going to say 172. So I was told I could get 172 for this place. And then Temple Terrace, which is my neighborhood, gives me, I hope you can see this. So the traditional is $43 a night. It says Airbnb would do about $70 a night. Okay, in the total area. So that says that my place is probably one of the premium places, right? That's what that's kind of telling us from a data perspective. Guys, what did I get for my place? I got an average of $404 per night. And the only reason that I was able to do that is because of experience. I had the pricing experience. And by the way, that was the hardest thing that I had to learn. And how I learned it is this. I bought it. At the time, because we were the Wild Wild West, I bought managed services. And if any of you have ever been in the tech industry, managed services are you pay an extra percentage of your entire bookings in order to get a one-on-one help once a month and to be part of a pricing group. That's how I learned. And it took me quite some time to learn. That was a hard thing to do. But but it was because of my experience. And they all told me I was crazy. They said, I put my minimum at $379 a night. And they said, you're crazy. You're never going to get that. I said, I don't care. It's my house. It's my house. And I have an idea of how this is going to work. And it did. I was so pleased. By July, I did $10,000 in July because I had tweaked just enough. So this year, I'm expecting a much bigger year as a result of what I learned. And the last thing I wanted to say is while this was all going on, I really got the heart to focus on waterfront women, especially from the domestic violence community, and then wealth planning. How do we do it? And, for me, it wasn't necessarily about, being visible all the time. For me, I had to go inside and be quiet for some of this time. So anyway, it's great to be back out. But there was also the inventory was very low. And I'm sure all of you are seeing that in various areas that you represent or that you work in. I decided that I was going to stay focusing on my expertise. For me to jump into fix and flips when we already in Tampa anyway have all these amazing fortune builders that are talented and skilled with fix and flips just didn't make sense for me to compete with them when I have a particular skill set that I could share. So it became more valuable for me to focus on my own expertise and to focus on collaborations and partnerships because I think that's a lot more fun anyway for me. And then, of course, as we step into these foreclosures, the pre-foreclosures are already starting. So what are those strategies and how can we partner up and collaborate together? So I'm just going to give you one little example. Oh, before I do, I'll just share with you some of the collaborations that I've done. I'm doing My Temple Terrace strategy where we buy homes in the area and with specific structures and then run the business together. I was involved in a luxury brand. You'll see the house at the very top. I built that and turned myself into an STR, a short-term rental concierge. In other words, I help people. Now I've got a couple of friends even in the real estate industry. I have a pilot friend who's in one of my other real estate groups. She's got a couple of different houses and I just helped her put her one in Denver up. And I'm going to be working with her for a year. I do all the background because of my background in technology. I do all the back end. And so I'm just going to work with her for an entire year. And then at the end of that year, if she wants me to keep the tech piece, I can sort of do that at a much reduced rate. And she can take over all of the communications. And I'm doing that with neighbors down the street. And I'm doing that with a couple of women in the domestic violence community. Next Gen, REI, they are another real estate group that I'm involved in, and they do something called Beyond Living, which I love the concept. The concept is this, and it's all about helping people. It's about, in these pre-foreclosures, why not help the people keep their houses? And we do it with structures. And inside the structure, we can participate as a finder, a funder, or a fixer. And so there's a variety of different roles that you can work in those. And the thing I love about them, and I'll go into that in the next slide, is that Beyond Living is really what it says. It's for nonprofit organizations such as veterans or foster kids or whatever, where there's large homes that we're changing. They don't need to be so large anymore, especially here in Temple Terrace. We have some that are like 5,000 square feet on a big golf course, right? Well, the parents have paid it off many years ago, and now the kids are going to use it as a cash flow strategy. And we're going to install, in each of the bedrooms, like veterans, and veterans come with their own support, government support every month. So the opportunity there is, instead of short-term rentals, it would be a Beyond Living home where people could live and get their, well, it could even be a Golden Girls house, right? But that they could get ready for their next chapter in their life. And then, of course, there's the pre-foreclosure syndications as well that are coming. So one of my, big focuses is women helping women. And this really dovetails into serving others, collaboration, and community. And we do that with the Beyond Living strategy. And here's one of them that we had started. And that is to get 2 waterfront houses, one up here in Crystal River, and then one down here on Hillsborough River. And then scour this whole area for waterfront properties or inland for these Beyond Living homes. And the idea was this, that we would put, let's use veterans as the example. We would put veterans, 8 to 10 veterans in this one and 8 to 10 veterans in this one. This one comes with a pontoon boat. And the idea was to run a tour operator. And so that everybody in the house could have a different role. One would be learning Facebook ads. One would be, doing the marketing. One would be learning how to captain the boat, and they could all interchange if they wanted to, while they got their place paid for. So, and, there's opportunities, I think, for retired people to do communities like that as well. So anyway, pre-foreclosure syndication group. There is a group of us that are scouring the pre-foreclosures and starting to try and turn these into Beyond Living homes. And in those areas where Beyond Living isn't quite ripe to be rolled out yet, in other words, we need some government sponsors and that sort of thing, we will do short-term rentals or retreats with that property until we're ready to install a Beyond Living home. And then, of course, the STR, the short-term rental concierge piece, and that is, me just helping people get up and running for the first year, coaching all the way along and running the whole back end and helping people learn the whole systems. All right. And that's it. So this is, if there's a will and a desire to do collaboration or work together, here's a couple of different things that I have available. Investors in NextGen are earning exceptional rates, up to 18%, and it's all guaranteed. House hacking. I have a house hacking course that I'm doing. By the end of the month, I am going to be running a little course. It's free. So if you're interested in me sending it to you when it's available, I'm more than happy to do that. This is to help people get up and running on Airbnb within 24 hours or less. And that's going to be mandatory for everybody to take that course and at least have that before, being able to do a one-on-one with me, because I don't have enough of me to go around. Property owners can partner with us. If you own properties and you would like to investigate the opportunity of doing a Beyond Living, I'd be more than happy to help you take a look at any of your properties that are currently in long-term rentals, but that you'd like to investigate the opportunity to do Beyond Living. I'm more than happy to help you look at that. Women helping women. If you want to collaborate with us on any of the pre-foreclosure syndication group or any of the Beyond Living homes that we would like to do, then let me know as well. And if anybody wants to hear a little bit more about the structures, the corporate structures, and how those can get laid out really nicely, whether you can be a funder or a finder. You could be a finder or a fixer. There is a webinar on May 10th coming up about that specifically. So this is a little funnel that I've built for myself. And if you are interested in any way, you can text to this number the word connect, and you're going to get a little link back and you can just check off any of the things that you would like to talk to me about. And I'll reach back out to you after tomorrow and we'll set up a one-on-one. All right. Or you can email me as well at Shelly@shellyfrank.com. Okay. I think that's it. That's all I've got for you. JJ?
Shelly, wow, that was fantastic. You're bringing a lot of gold nuggets there, a lot of different types of value. I love what you do for women as far as empowering women and helping women build their business. And, there's not enough support for people out there. There's not enough support for women out there. And I think women are the backbone of the country. They're the backbone of families, or the backbone of everything we do. My mom was my best friend. So, I'm a big proponent of women, but as far as, just all the different types of basis of support and structure that we could provide for people, that's great. And I think what you do is fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just really do. We're going to wrap up a little bit. We're going to move into the breakout rooms and everything else. But before I do, I kind of wanted to tie this back into the group being a networking group. What do you think, Shelly, with your experience in real estate and business, what's the importance for the new investor, for the experienced investor, as far as networking to make their business happen? How does that all fit together, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah. Well, it is the most important thing. I mean, JJ, you and I we met over a year ago on a call, on this call, actually. One of your other speakers, Jerry Britt, was invited me to come to a call. He's a local fortune builder here, tremendous man. And this group was so very important to me in at that time in my life. I was going through a really dark period, and I really needed everybody. And I still have deep relationships with so many people, and so good to see them all here. But it's really those relationships from the past. It's so easy to reach back out once you've already got that relationship with somebody, to say, hey, here's what's really going on now. Right. So the networking and the other thing that I think is really important about the networking is authenticity. I mean, showing up exactly with who you are and, what's happening in your life. I mean, 2020 wasn't easy for me. I think it's important for me to share the truth with people, that you need to find ways to bench strength yourself through to the next level. You need to. So everybody's got different experiences as well. So, networking and finding out what other people's talents are brings you the most unlikely and best relationships for business.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think for myself, my desire to make my business happen as a real estate investor, I knew I needed to reach out and create relationships and create friendships. And we don't know what we don't know. And we all jump in thinking we're going to wholesale, we're going to rehab, and this is going to be our path. But as we meet other people and as we see how we interact, we make our own path. And, what I'm doing today is not what I thought I'd be doing 3 years ago. And, and not only that, but what I'm doing today has led me to an abundance of friends, an abundance of support. And that has just started just a byproduct of networking. So thank you for helping us tie that all together. If you guys are watching Shelly's presentation right now on YouTube, please click below and like the video, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you guys are watching us right now, please, we have a whole bunch of great guests coming up. So please look for the postings. My new webpage is called networkingwithjj.com. I have another webpage, jjazizian.com. So follow me, see what I'm doing, which is helping you. My whole thing is about helping other people. And through that, wonderful things have happened to me. It was not my intention, but as Zig Ziglar says, help other people get what they want. And later on, indirectly, other people will help you get what you want. And I am now starting to experience that. Anyhow, guys, hang on. We're going to end the call. We're going to go to breakout rooms, and we'll have the Q&A after that. Everybody else, thanks for watching. See you soon.